Many in the safety profession were motivated to pursue the profession in response to a lived experience of exposure to psychosocial or physical hazards in previous industries or specific workplaces. We'll explore one of these stories and the motivation it creates for a safety professional. Up next on this episode of the Psych, Health, and Safety USA podcast. From Flourish DX, this is the Psych, Health, and Safety USA podcast. As workplace mental health has become a global priority, there's a greater focus on addressing psychosocial hazards. Each week, we look at psychological safety from an occupational health and safety perspective. Let's talk psychological health and safety. Welcome to this episode of the Psych, Health, and Safety USA podcast. I'm your host, Dr. I. David Daniels, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Our goal for each episode is to increase awareness of the importance of psychological health and safety by learning from the lived experiences, research, and expertise of our guests, as well as advocating strategies to reduce harm and minimize vulnerability to psychosocial hazards in the American workplace. When you've witnessed the unthinkable, colleagues injured, lives lost, trauma etched into the walls of your workplace, you don't just carry the memories. You sometimes take on a mission. That kind of exposure to psychosocial hazards and physical harm, it changes you. It strips away any illusions and forces clarity, and that safety isn't optional, and silence is actually complicity. You become the one who sees what others overlook. You pay attention to fractures in the culture, and warning signs in behavior, and systems that fail under pressure. And instead of turning away, you step forward. And for those who choose safety as a profession, you do it not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because you've seen what happens when it's neglected. Your lived experience becomes your lens, your fuel, your edge. You don't just enforce the rules, you fight for lives, for dignity, and for change. And in doing so, you transform tragedy into a source of leadership. That's the conversation we're going to have today with the safety professional, going back in the Wayback Machine, if you will, to what motivates a person to be so concerned about safety. I myself have been described as one of those people who sometimes comes across as, really maybe too focused on safety. I don't think you can focus too much on safety. And that is driven by lived experience and by the things that we've seen. So let's get right into the conversation. And I want to start the conversation with an introduction of my guest, by my guest, with this question. Who is Abdias Torres?
Hey, David, thank you so much for having me. This is quite a pleasure and a privilege to have this discussion and be able to discuss these very important matters with you this afternoon. So, um, Abdias Torres, well, I'm a risk control and safety professional. My background is in industrial engineering, which is kind of like a way to see it. I'm an industrial engineer who's very passionate safety, or a safety person who's very passionate on industrial processes. So I believe there's a great balance there. But I've had over 15 years of experience in the safety world, in the processes and industry. I'm well versed in industrial hygiene, safety management, risk assessments. Because of that, I've actually been very involved with many manufacturing processes and across a variety of industries, from oil and gas, power generation, heavy manufacturing, food processing, both in the U.S. and Canada and Latin America. I'm actually originally from Venezuela, so I've had the privilege to work across many and diverse uh, workplaces and fields with different cultures, different languages, to say it that way. But I would say at my core, I'm someone who's passionate about helping organizations protect their people and assess through proactive risk management the ways that they can be better and improve their processes and make it better for people that are involved in as their employees. I do enjoy translating that technical safety concept into practical strategies that make a real difference in the workplace, and drive the culture, and alongside with the performance. As I say, I'm from Venezuela, so I'm bilingual, English and Spanish. And that has been great because it has allowed me to bridge communication and training gaps across quite diverse workforces. So that's about who I am right now.
Right on, right on, right on. One more question that is actually the only absolutely standard question that I ask, and it is what does psychological health and safety mean to you?
Well, to me, I do take it personal. I mean, this is definitely my job and my profession, and I enjoy that. But to me, psychological health and safety means being able to create environments where people feel supported and respected, and empowered to speak up about risk. Like you mentioned, sometimes silence can be complicit. When you know things are not well, in a workplace, an environment, that could definitely lead to a disaster or catastrophic event, um, and you do not speak up, whether that would be a reason, for you to be looked at as a crazy person bringing, like Final Destination type of approach, or just by no, like, oh yeah, this person, they're just they can't take it. it, those risks are real, and sometimes, I said, like you said, being silent about them, it can be an issue. So bringing that up, with the obviously being able to address physical hazards, but also connect that to the emotional and mental well-being of a worker. That, for just to give you an example. Somebody might not speak up because they feel threatened. They feel they're going to be retaliated against. They might feel that they are not, or they're just a wuss. They're like, oh yeah, you can't take it. This is part of the beast, in the business and in the processes. In the oil and gas, that's where I would say I saw the most. People would take it. You have it, a roughneck. You have a person who's, blue collar doing this type of work, which is intense and demanding, and then emotions, or connecting, how, or your state of mind and emotions, how you feel about certain things might not come across as like the tough macho person, that that you want to, have that image reflect about you. But again, it's, in my case, psychological health and safety means that, I'll be able to recognize that safety is just it's not just limited to wearing a hard hat, or implementing or following certain engineering control. I think it's about how people experience their work, how they manage stress, how they feel when addressing concerns. That they feel that they can come up to their supervisor, to whoever is in charge, and collaboratively, and also uh, uh, looking out for people around you, create a safer work environment. So psychologically, I would say a safe workplace is the one that to me, that encourages collaboration, that trust and continuous improvement. Which in turn, obviously, strengthens the overall risk management and performance of a team. You want to, if you're safe, and at the end of the day, at least you were safe, you've accomplished a lot. You strive for production. Okay, we're going to get this product out, and we're going to do these. These are the services we're going to provide. If you aim to be safe as your main goal, not to be confused with being safety first. That's not a mentality that we have, but to be very minded of the recognizing, safety as a priority, and as something that we should be trying to engage, in any aspect of the production at any point. So keeping that in mind as a collaborative approach, with everybody being aware and situation and aware of what's going on, I think that helps a lot. But again, I think it's trust, making sure that the workers feel supported and they are respected, and again inspired and empowered to speak up on the risks that they are witnessing.
Wow. Yeah, a particular part of your kind of origin story when you talk about the fact that you're an engineer who's interested in safety or a safety person who has engineering background. I find sometimes that those can be two different people. I consider myself, I am not a linear sequential math focused kind of person. I'm more of a, artsy, open minded, I like humans type of person. And I also know that also seen people who are really extremely, again, linear sequential in their thinking. It's about the numbers, it's about the facts and the figures, and sometimes those have difficulty kind of overlapping because, matter of fact, matter of fact, I'll say my wife works for an engineer and has worked for engineers before, and at least my observation outside looking in is sometimes they can be so kind of factual in the way that they address things that they forget that these are humans. And you can design a bridge, but you don't get to design humans. I mean, you can try, but they're going to come out and be a lot of things you didn't design. And so sometimes considering how they're feeling and whether or not they're safe or not is difficult for folks who have kind of this engineering mind and engineering education. So I guess my next question for you is, how did you, with the engineering kind of background, become interested in risk management and safety? How did that all come together?
Well, it's actually great. It's a great story. Like you said, I at the beginning of my career as an industrial engineer, focused more. My thing was actually quality control. I wanted to specialize in quality control, being efficient, and making that productivity. Hitting the tolerance levels right, the metrics, and making sure that I hit every single aspect on that quality, of things or services. Um, I did become a field engineer in the oil and gas industry. I've always been a people person, and I liked my role in the field engineering because it allowed me to bridge that technical aspect of my career with having that exposure in the field. Um, and I would say, my career, yes, it drove me to having industrial engineering, quality control. I realized that beyond efficiency and productivity, there's the human element. The health and safety and well-being. Uh, and that was actually truly an eye opening because you sometimes define operational success as just being able to get product out the door or to do something or to complete the task that you have at hand. In my case, in the oil and gas, I was involved in a really bad accident. Where somebody lost a leg, and that was second to another event that I was not involved with, but I saw somebody just get killed right in front of my eyes, and that sticks with you. That actually, I saw firsthand how safety systems, when properly designed, respected, can prevent this type of life-changing incidents. But I can definitely see how tragic it is when those are lacking and you end up with a bad tragedy that scars you for life. Again, it was that type of experience that motivated me to just specialize and dive deeper into safety. Even though safety risk control uh, does not really connect, I would say, or it's not apparent or evident that you have that in there, like you said, like numbers, metrics, production, having all these mindset. Risk control actually ties very well with quality control. I mean, like you said it, now you just have the human element included into it. And I would say that experience, that's what motivated me to dive deeper in risk management. I found myself going to the University of Wisconsin staff for my risk control for masters in risk control. My brother, who was actually involved, it's funny how life kind of provides you certain perspectives. My brother, who's uh, a journalist at heart. Back home, he does that's his degree. He's got a bachelor's in journalism, and ended up going to the University of Wisconsin style to do a risk control a master's program, to go through that program. And he goes, man, I think you will love this. You would thrive in this environment. This what I'm learning. It would probably be a great continuation for your career and how you connect the two, because he knows me pretty well. He does know that I'm a personal human being. I like interaction with people. I've been a teacher, I've been a translator, I've been an interpreter, I've been facilitated events. And but also the engineering part, that's kind of my passion. And my brother, he saw that connection, said, hey, I think you would be great. So he was one of the ones that encouraged me to pursue that masters in risk control. And part of it is actually, then you have safety as in risk control business. When you have to deal with operational risks. You're not only looking at your human element. You're looking at property. You're looking at liability. Well, my experience in safety kind of drove me into that world, and have now I'm passionate with the whole, like, as one of my professors used to say, with the total asset protection in mind, where when operations mean that you can uh, take a holistic approach to preserving, and making sure that the risks are abated and managed from an operational standpoint. And that's where numbers come in. Honestly, that's where I'm passionate. Uh, because I'm able to not only look at the behavior, what can we do to ensure people feel supported, but also being able to implement systems, with engineering controls that we know, or administrative controls that can provide that for us or support that. So it's a great balance. I love what I do now because of that. Just being able to connect the two and have a balance between my technical expertise and also the people and human element involved in these processes.
Wow. 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 Yeah. Again, it is. I describe you folks who are industrial hygienists and quality engineers as the smart kids. Because again, I did okay in some of those areas, but it just really wasn't a real interest, and I found it hard to really kind of concentrate on that stuff. So but it is important. It is important that those of us who kind of lead with our heart have to have people go like, well, but there are some facts. You can't just do everything off of your feelings. But on the other hand, we can't just eliminate people's feelings because you have to have actually both, and it's that balance that's really important. So now you mentioned in a little bit in passing a couple. You said you've had a couple of experiences that were that kind of jumped out for you. If you're comfortable sharing, which of those do you think was the most impactful on the way that you see safety? Those experience you talked about.
Well, witnessing somebody get killed in the field definitely scar me. I would say, that happened in the oil and gas industry. As you know, it's one of the most complex and high risk environments in the world, together with mining and other things. But um, that's where my experience there taught me that resistance is something you can just completely eliminate. It's something that you must continuously manage through awareness and systems and culture. But that's where I drew the line, because uh, it, the way that everything was managed after that fatality on site, just made me realize that we are dehumanizing, or we don't take into account the health aspect and the mental toll that witnessing something like that, or being part of an accident that ends up being an amputation or fatality, or anything that would definitely would not leave your memory. And if you're part of it, I think, um, and to be specific on the details, with that, right after that person got killed, on site, he was crushed by a pipe that fell. Um, and time is money, right? In this business, oil and gas, and I understand it, because I understand that the show must go on type of, it's business continuity. We have to continue doing this. We have to, um, just get back to work, basically. However, that was the approach. Basically, somebody had just gotten killed, and all right, let's get back to work. No, nothing to see here. We just continue. And that happened about 25 minutes after that it actually happened. That was like, it just made me realize, and I would. We continuously dehumanize, or do not take into account the emotional toll, or what happens in somebody's mind prior to the accident, obviously, because a state of mind, somebody can be a contributing factor to an accident. But after the fact, like kind of a post-traumatic stress that comes with witnessing this type of, even if you were not directly involved or guilty. Like I've seen that. I don't know if I've been cursed or very fortunate to see that quite a bit in my years of experience. But I've interviewed people that have lost an arm, the people that were around when that person lost an arm, the implications, and just the fact that while I'm doing this accident investigation and asking all these really difficult questions, where that person basically admitted, yeah, I messed up. I shouldn't have bypassed this guard, and I should have followed procedures. And you can tell. I mean, nobody's it wakes up one day saying, you know what, I want to lose an arm today. That's not the case. But that person just broke into tears, and I mean, it's really, it gets to you when you see a grown man in tears, uh, and then you realize that, well, we should not be normalizing that type of approach, where people are saying, well, business is important. Yeah, we have accidents, but that kind of is the cost of operations, and doing business. That should not be, the go-to. I understand, and again, as an engineer, and understanding how processes and lines of operations work, they have to continuously run, right? But we do have to take into account that mental health into the safety world, into what experiences are doing to the workforce. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen pictures. I wish I could just erase from my memory. I've seen, I've had to do a accident investigations, and after the fact, and kind of just realizing and coming to terms with the different um, uh, implications of what that meant. But just to give you an example, continuing with that person that lost an arm, he was in tears, and all he could say is like, yeah, it is my fault, and and then later on he mentioned that he loved playing the guitar. He's like, I won't be able to play the guitar anymore. This is something that has changed my life forever. And honestly, I was just doing my job. I was doing an interview for accident investigation, but at that point, I felt, empathy and compassion. I mean, like, what if that had been me? What if that had been a person I loved? And we should definitely, I mean, complete the work, do what we're supposed to do, but we should not just dehumanize emotions, or kind of humanize might not be the best word, but like stigmatize certain emotions, just because the show must go on and we have to resume operations. That's not the right way to go, I think, in my experience.
Do you need more psych health and safety in your life? Then head over to the FlourishDX Academy for several free on-demand e-learning courses. If you're an internal professional, follow FlourishDX on Eventbrite to register for any of our free fortnightly interactive webinars. Our flagship professional practice program is also exclusively available for internal professionals. The 12-week course blends theory, applied practice, and interaction with other professionals through live lectures and a monthly community of practice session. Find out more about all these learning opportunities or inquire about a bespoke in-house training at the Flourish DX Academy. www.45003.org. Now back to this episode.
Yeah, I find it interesting that some see these occurrences as kind of these binaries. On the one hand, we got the business, and on the other hand, we got how people feel. And it's like they're two separate things. And they're not. I mean, at least in my view, how people are feeling is going to affect your business. So it makes more sense on the front end to do every single solitary thing you can do to identify what that hazard was, to assess how serious it is, to mitigate any potential for harm to human beings, and just decide, look, if people are going to be harmed, we're not going to do it that way because that could harm people. And in the situation where things don't go well, because no matter how much energy we put in on the front end, there's always something we couldn't have contemplated. And what I suggest is the things where I can't contemplate, it's that psychosocial stuff. I didn't know that person was having financial issues at home. I didn't know that they were just told that their spouse is going to die. I didn't know they were about to lose their home. I didn't know any of that. They didn't even share it with me. I didn't know they were off task today. I would have, and then something happens because my observation is that every single solitary instance of physical harm or physical risk is preceded by some kind of psychosocial risk that somebody didn't pay attention to. And often it's me. I just go, I'm not at my best. And I probably shouldn't have even come to work today. Or I know that training didn't really stick. I'm not really sure I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Those are psychosocial indicators that something's off, and we push through it. We just got to keep going because the business has to go, or the operation has to continue, or the production has to continue. And I believe that's a part of effective production to me, is when something looks up, stop, let's check it out. Let's make sure, because the closer we get to this next point, we won't be able to come back once we make that decision. As I'm sure I shared with you, and I shared, often my experience of being in the fire rescue service. Once we decide to go in, this building's on fire. This environment could kill us. Once we make a decision to go in, we're in it now. And so sometimes we had to decide not to go in at all because the risk was too great. The chance of saving someone else's life was zero. The building was going to be lost anyway. So why commit? It is what it is. And I think in production, often people don't know. Look, we just need to stop. We may lose a little bit right now, but we'll lose even more if we injure or kill someone.
Agreed. And, to that point, actually, being able to distinguish, the importance of decision making under pressure, and making sure that leadership is impacted and with a commitment, having the safety outcomes that are a preference. Just to that point, I shared something kind of it's funny. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. A person that he was distracted. He put his hand somewhere that he wasn't supposed to, and a conveyor caught him, and he got like 4 stitches on his right hand. And there were controls in place, even to a point that somebody actually came to him and asked him, "Hey, so are you okay? You seem off today." And earlier that day, and that person later still got in an accident. And kind of I pressed him because I was doing the accident investigation, making sure that because it was one of the critical safety rules that if he had violated because of getting hurt, obviously now the stigma of like, oh, having to do an accident investigation and all these, and there's a lot of burden that goes on finger pointing. And the guy came clean and say, you know what, yeah, I understand. I mean, I shouldn't have put my hand here. I mean, this is I work safely every day, and yeah, I'm off today. And I'm like, okay, so what, if you don't mind, it's like, can you share that? It's like he even felt embarrassed and saying, well, you see, my dog died this morning, and he didn't say anything about it. and how am I going to tell my daughter that my daughter died, and she just went to school, and she's coming back. And like my head was in the clouds, honestly, and I didn't share any of that because how can I skip a day at work if it's just my dog that died. But you see, like to a lot of people, that perception said, well, it was just a dog, or a pet. Um, to him, that was not it. To him and his family, that was another family member, and having to deal with that. So sometimes it's little things here and there that, and thankfully that person was okay. But what would have happened if that person would be in, like, on heavy equipment, or like a front end loader, or a forklift, would have impaled somebody just because they were not working right. So being able to identify that, and he knew, that's the thing, he knew he was not all there. He felt a little bit impaired. Unfortunately, I mean, every head is a universe, like we have a saying in Spanish, and sometimes you cannot know exactly, but we do have um, regulations and guidelines to identify when somebody's impaired, and somebody's okay to operate a vehicle or not. I wish we had something that would be more specific to our health and mental health and safety, that would allow us to pursue that more of a standardized. Obviously, it's human behavior stuff.
Honestly, I'll help you. There are things, to be quite honest, there are things. I happen to be working with a startup right now who's identified a technology that will identify fatigue in people based on their voice biomarkers. You don't sound right today, and it just says that you're off, that you're impaired because of something, and that's even before you go to work. So that technology is out there, but there are things out there that don't cost you anything. What would happen if a person finds out that they have a communicable disease? You'd expect them to share that, right? There's policies. I have something that's going to spread to a bunch of people, and they would feel comfortable saying, "Hey, I'm sick today. I have the flu." We've done a pretty decent job identifying these physical kinds of of hazards, of harm, of risk to people. It's just we think the psychological stuff doesn't matter, and that's the point. The point is it does, and it's really not that difficult to address if the culture would allow it. If a person knew, look, if you're off today, we don't care what it is. If you're not feeling at your 100% best, we just want to have a conversation before you go to work. That's all. Say, hey, hey, boss, or colleague, or whatever. This is this thing that's going on with me. If people felt that they could say, I know this might sound kind of weird, but man, our dog died, and I'm really, I got to tell my daughter, and that's a conversation that could have been had, and then somebody could be working with that, that partner today. Man, I got your back today. I'm watching out for you, because you need that today. These are easy human things, and there were probably people that would have done it had the culture normalized that. But what we do normalize is be tough, don't say anything. You got a problem, keep it to yourself. It is your problem until you came to work with me. Now it's our problem. That's the issue. I don't need to get in your business. I'm not trying to intrude, but when we come together, we have to be at our best. Not just you, not just me. We both have to, because what you do affects me.
Exactly. No, I completely agree, 100%. And that's great. I mean, do we have those resources and things out there that they kind of seem very futuristic, and I'm glad to see that we're headed somewhere, with that. And to that point, and kind of like going on the other side of the spectrum, it's hard to implement these programs because people tend to abuse it. And oh yeah, well, my dog died. Well, oh, my grandmother died. Oh, my grandmother. Well, how many grandmothers do you have? There was a guy that they kept track of how many mothers, grandmothers had died.
This is where the kind of maybe ultra humanist part of me says, why does a person feel like they have to do that? Why? What is it? If people really enjoy their work and enjoy being around their colleagues and enjoy what they're doing, they're not going to do that because they want to be there. I mean, the people who are doing that type of thing, who are making up reasons not to come to work, it's not just that's an excuse, but there's something about that work that's not working for them. And they can't really tell you that piece. They can't tell you that my supervisor is just really difficult to be around. So I come up with every excuse not to come to work. Or the work is really too hard for me, but I can't tell you that. And you mentioned it earlier, particularly folks who already feel marginalized. I don't speak English very well. I have a disability. I don't understand the culture. I'm already feeling some kind of way. But this is where I go back and I put this on the employer. You hired that person that way. You hired them with whatever education they have, with however tall or short they were, with however you hired them that way. It is your responsibility to create a work environment that is safe for that person to do the work you want them to do. So, yeah, they don't understand that because you didn't tell them. Yeah, they're making up those excuses not to come to work, probably because you're not paying them enough or because you're not treating them. I mean, seriously. So, both are important. Now, the reality is there will be people who have other kinds of motivations that are inconsistent with what we do here. My issue is we always start there first and we don't look at what the organization and the culture is doing. Do that part first because you can control that. And yeah, if the person isn't following the rules, the best thing we can do for some people is to help them be successful doing something else or working someplace else. That's the best thing.
Correct. I agree. That's awesome.
We're not mad at you. I mean, but this isn't going to work out because here we take care of each other. Here we wear our seatbelts. Here we tie off. Here we follow the rules. Here, that's the way. But we told you that when you started, right? You should be surprised by that. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, of course. No, and I agree. I mean, setting the expectations. Obviously, we do need rules. We do need the compliance aspect of things. But then compliance doesn't take you anywhere but the starting line. I mean, that's how I see it. Compliance would just get you the bare minimum. You're doing everything you can. That person now, yeah, they're wearing a seatbelt, but they don't understand the reasons why they need to wear a seatbelt when they're on the forklift. Or it's like, oh, it's stupid that I wear safety glasses. I'm here just doing this, or I'm gonna do this real quick. I hate those, especially around machinery. Why? And there is a lot of pressure. Especially in like blue collar workforce, there's a lot of pressure on getting the warehouse emptied and loaded into trucks, and having this shipment go out on time, making sure that these are stacked correctly, and that they do not take into account a lot of the times the safety aspect of it, attention. And to that point, a lot of people do not leave jobs, or they hate their job, not because they might be getting poorly paid, or they might have really hard job physically, demanding, but they most saw this research that the reason people leave their jobs, or they hate going to work, or they do not enjoy what they're doing, is because they do not have friends. They feel isolated. So if you're able to create some type of community and that build up, the making somebody proud of their work, connecting to them in the emotion, because everybody wants to have some level of significance, right? I mean, you wake up in the morning, it's like, what drives you? What's the purpose of your life, right? That's how I see it. If you're able to connect that, and I get it. I mean, work is work. You need to pay the bills and all that. But if you can take some of that and incorporate it into somebody's everyday life, where they are taking pride in what they're getting out the door, in the service they're providing, and then they understand the reasons why they need to be safe. Going back home, that's the real life. That's when they're going to be able to enjoy the benefits and reap the benefits of being safe at work. Because, like that person said, well, I'm not going to be able to play the guitar anymore because of a work-related accident. That's just very, that just breaks my heart. So I do use that as a motivation to make sure that when I am from a technical standpoint, I am trying to establish rules and follow compliance and all that. Try to connect that the people understand why not just oh, just follow the rules, put your safety glasses on, but or you use this gloves when you're doing this changing a propane tank out of a forklift. If they understand why, and what could happen if they don't, that actually drives, it stays with them, and they will be compliant. I mean, you've met the your goal by being by being going a little bit beyond that compliance portion of it. You're able to be compliant, and then actually get some more and engagement and buy-in. So a lot of that, I read it's this article that there's kind of an epidemic on suicides by construction workers. A lot of them are suffering the consequences. I mean, there's still a lot of research into it, but it is disproportionately higher than any other industry for construction work. And you mentioned feeling disconnected, maybe speaking a different language. Having that kind of a shame or embarrassment or you know that disconnection or isolation when they feel discriminated, when they might feel like, and they work hard. I tell you, I mean, like I've seen people that most of the time, because of those aspects in their life, they tend to even exceed the expectations, and they work hard, and they end up getting in an accident, because guess what? They don't want to stop the line and follow lockout tagout procedures when it's required by then, when it's a rule, when it's written, in an SOP or somewhere, telling them, hey, this is how you do things. Well, this is going to take extra 5 minutes, of the production, and we cannot afford to stop it. And when you have supervisors or people that are above them, not discouraging or encouraging that sort of behavior, negative behavior, obviously, because they want to excel at what they do and want to do it fast. Man, that just breaks your heart, because they're, what are they risking? They're risking their lives for a product that is like 7 cents to produce. If a jam bag or product in the line would require you to follow a lockout tagout procedure, they're not doing that. That's just sad that they feel that they're going to put their own livelihood, their own well-being, just risking a whole limb to do it quickly, because they feel like they're not performing according to the expectations. So it is part of that. I see a lot of cultural issues when it comes to well, we have to like whip people to make sure that they stay on track, and like work them and be really strict and follow this. But well, adults, they there's not much that you can how you could force them to do. That's why you can only prevent them from doing things. That's why we have prisons. But if you think about it, it's like, well, it is best to get their buy-in and understanding why, kind of like the approach on taking the human element, making sure that we follow that, that we're compassionate, we are understanding of people's situations, we are eh, 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 you know addressing the issues that are real to them, because sometimes that's the case. Like you mentioned, it might not be a big issue with for somebody else, a different circumstance, but this is that person working for me, so now it has become my problem. So in industry, and that's where I see it, we have to accommodate and kind of customize and tailor to the needs of the workforce, the level of education, the level of, even the seniority, because you might have certain worker that is being there for 45 years, and he's never had an accident, never, ever, and he would tell you that. That's actually his his defense when it comes to like, hey, you should be doing this way. And they're like, oh, I've done it. I've always done it like this. Why do I need to change it? Um, but you see that person carries quite the experience that you can take from, if you address it respectfully, in a way that they understand. Say, well, I understand, and statistically, yeah, you've been great, you've done it this way, but that's not how we're supposed to be doing it, or we should maybe try this way better to reduce the potential for risk and for accidents. I mean, sometimes if you explain it in plain language, they'll go for it. And especially like you get I deal a lot with that. Like some people that will be in the workforce that are that have been there longer than I've been alive. I mean, they know their line pretty well. They don't need some, a stuck up engineer, safety professional telling them how to do their job, But if you approach to them and you acknowledge who they are, what they know, how they can improve, and you reason with them, say, but the thing is that takes time, and it doesn't come naturally because, again, you just want to do your job and get out of there, most of the time, I would say, but that's where making sure that you connect that expertise to your day to day, because we are dealing with people. It's easier to deal with numbers. It's easy to set up a metric and follow it. When you have somebody that that has a personality, that has issues like we all do, that has ups and downs. They have good days, they have bad days, they have great days. You need to accommodate to that, and take into account a lot of things, that surround their day to day. So
Right, right,
I agree.
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. As we wrap here, this has really turned out to be what I hoped it would be. You have such a passion around both parts of this job. I mean, because again, you have the technical expertise around quality and around systems, but also care about the people. Again, that's really my concern. I'm not saying that either is the most important. They're both important. You're not going to be effective with just one. If you're just about the process, you forget about the people. But if you're just about the people, you won't get the process. You need both. And both have to be effective. Both have to be protected. Both have to be supported. Both have to be overseen. Both have to be designed. They're both important. And I just, again, too often the people part gets left off, you know, and we lean too much, I think, towards the production profit, whatever it is. We lean too much towards that side. We forget about the human beings. But it is just really important to have folks like yourself in the conversation, that they know my technical expertise, but they also know I care about them. People know that you care about human beings, and I don't know if it was, I don't think it was just those experiences. I think they probably helped. I think some of this might be personality, and that's wonderful. But those experiences, they're those things that you've seen that went really sideways, they kind of stick out. You don't want to see that happen again, I'm sure. You don't want to see this happen to people, ever again. So,
Not at all. And I'll
yeah.
tell you, I mean, somewhat my perspective has changed over the years. When I started as a safety professional and doing risk control and different things, I would have a tendency to show videos and very gruesome images and things that would like kind of capture people's attention and make them understand. So yeah, while I have experienced certain, things that I would not wish on anybody or my worst enemy, when I've seen things that I wish I could just, erase them from my memory. Like not long ago, I got this autopsy report that I wish I had a heads up before I opened it. And yeah, that was not great. I'm like, I don't need to see this. But anyway, to that point, it's like you do not need to see something really gruesome or tragic for you to, switch to this mindset of caring for the people, making sure. So and that's what I saw. I'm like, you know what, I it was an experience doing a training session that led me to make sure I didn't show those gruesome pictures anymore and gruesome videos. So happened I was doing this training, and I show a video of somebody in a golf cart in one of the ports in Fort Lauderdale. This person got run over by a truck coming well, the truck hit the golf cart, and the person got ejected from the golf cart, and then run over by this truck, and obviously an instant fatality right there. And I was just showing that, to have this. And I was doing forklift training that I was doing. I was showing that to kind of portray how fast and for them to understand how quickly things go sideways, especially when you're not paying attention, because the lady was at fault. What happened there? She was not paying attention. The person got killed. But anyway, so all this is happening, and the reason I give you the context is because I need to understand. Like I have an audience, right? I'm expecting certain reaction to the video I'm showing, because it's pretty intense to watch. And I didn't give it away. I'm like, hey, here, look at this right here. So this is gonna happen now. I didn't say that. I said just pay attention to this and the surrounding. And anyway, so I see this person. That person just got up and left the room, and I'm like, well, that was not a reaction that I was expecting, And then one of them said, well, you see, that was his wife, the way that you show. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me now? Like, no, that's actually his wife. The person, that happened about 10 years ago, and you just show the video. That is public, public domain. It's like everybody's got access to it. You can go on YouTube and watch it. Uh, what, but I was not being sensitive to that, So, kind of like, to my point there, the what I was trying to do is kind of like create this big reaction and making sure that oh my gosh, they listened to what I was saying and see how important it was. But I realized that's not needed to that point. That's not something that you would want to, somebody to experience, because, I was guilty of actually desensitizing, or dehumanizing a process, and I saw it myself. So I was kind of guilty of doing that myself. As long as you stay mindful of those little things that make a human being a human being. I wish we'd never lose that, because that's when things go sideways. That's when you see accidents happen. That's when you feel, and it's kind of funny. Sometimes you think, well, the lack of friends affect your work performance. Yes, absolutely, but nobody wants to admit that's the case, because they might be viewed as vulnerable, or you're a wuss, or oh yeah, look, you're needy, and man, that I just hate that's the case in a lot of environments, not only in the workplace, but also in like or non or social environments. But especially in the workplace, those things do carry consequences that could be impactful, and you may end up having a bad accident just because of those aspects not being taken into consideration. So
Right,
no, I
right,
appreciate that.
right. Yeah. Wow, 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 wow. So much you shared. Again, I really appreciate you taking time to share, not only your experiences, but, some of the things that you've learned from those experiences, because, the last thing you mentioned, that's I over the last probably couple of years, I've had to think about that same thing myself when I am getting ready to share a story that might be emotional, as to at least let people know. So I want to say something here. This might be, sometimes people don't need a lot of warning, but they need a little bit of warning, because our brains are set up to be able to protect us from things if we get the time. And the issue for some people is these things happen with no warning whatsoever, just kind of comes out of nowhere. And so the opportunity to be able to share, then I can decide whether or not I want to tune in or want to stay in the room or whatever, because life is kind of gory sometimes. I've got way more stories than we have time to talk about what it looks like. And I was actually there. But that doesn't mean I need to transfer that trauma to somebody else because of something else that they saw or something else that they experienced. And again, it is recognizing that a psychosocial hazard means different things to different people. And it's just being aware. We're not ever going to be perfect, because I can't know everything that's going on for everybody. But I think it's important that we have this environment where people can say, here's what we're doing to try to minimize it. And if it comes up, here's how we deal with it. So again, thank you very much for what you shared. Wow, this is some of this I'm gonna have
That's
to
my
like
pleasure.
process it. Think about this one. Yeah,
No, I
this is
appreciate it. No,
yeah.
I really enjoyed having these conversations with you, especially because I can see that you're really passionate on this topic, and in my experience, it does not get talked as much as it should. And so yeah, while my perspective has been shaped by real world challenges, but being able to understand how decisions are made in the field, and how systems must support people, not just to regulate them and kind of control what they do, but making sure that empathy is built up, and then you'll be able to have better client relationships. You have to, better self, because we are serving. When we're in the industry, we're serving each other. So if we can, have those solutions, that you mentioned, that actually work and do the things in practice, and reap, we be able to reap results that are great, and that you don't know how much hangs in the balance of actually approaching somebody, and with the right attitude and mindset, when it comes to these things. So I've loved doing this with you, and I do hope that a lot of people get to uh, experience certain things that would let them see, and shift their perspective to safety, and how safety and mental health are connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks. Thanks very much. And if you are watching or listening to this podcast for the first time, welcome. I hope something that you've heard will bring you back to a future episode. Previous episodes of the podcast can be found at Psych, Health, and Safety USA.com. You can watch, like, subscribe, and share the podcast on the Flourish DX YouTube page. And please do join the Psych, Health, and Safety USA movement by connecting and becoming a subscriber on LinkedIn. So until next time, stay tuned and look out for the next episode of the Psych, Health, and Safety USA podcast. Tune in each week for new episodes of the Psych, Health, and Safety USA podcast. If you have a story or know of one that needs to be told, reach out to us on LinkedIn or send an email to David at id2-solutions.com, or go to the Flourish DX website at flourishdx.com. We'll see you next time.